I started school at the University of Oregon in fall of 1965. Vietnam was going on, and I was aware because I was in high school. There were a lot of high school kids who dropped out of school and were getting drafted. So they were like 17, 18, 19 years old, and they were going to training and then being assigned to go to Vietnam. So I was aware of what was going on in Vietnam. And when I went to the University of Oregon, one of the first things I did was I said, I don't want to get drafted. I want to stay in school. I want to finish school before I serve in the military. And the one way that I was able to do that was by joining ROTC. ROTC is Reserve Officers Training Corps.
ROTC stands for Reserve Officer Training Corps. ROTC was founded in 1916. This is a college program that helps prepare and train young adults to become trained commissioned officers in the U.S. military. ROTC students attend college like any other. However, they are expected to train during the school year and summer. In trade of this, you can receive a paid college education. As for cadets, you are committed to serve in the military upon after graduation.
I was in the Air Force ROTC for my first 2 years because I wanted to fly. But at the end of my sophomore year, you had to take a physical in order to go to the upper division part of ROTC with the Air Force. And unbeknownst to me, I failed the physical. I could not pass the eye part. You're not correctable to 20/20 vision, and you have to have good eyes if you want to fly. And so I was pretty sad at the time because I said, oh God, I'm going to get drafted and go to Vietnam without finishing school.
The cadets must take a medical exam. The requirement is to have good normal colored vision, sufficient hearing, having no history of hay fever, asthma, or allergies after the age of 12. A cadet must weigh a minimum of 91 pounds and a height of 4'10" and no more than 20% body fat.
Oregon, I actually had a roommate. Well, he was killed by enemy gunfire. And then another good friend, Curtis, ended up going to Vietnam too, and then he was another casualty of the war. He did not come home. So I was aware of that, and my roommate died in Vietnam. My good friend died in Vietnam. Some high school kids that I knew died in Vietnam, and I really didn't want to go there because I knew it was not healthy. Mm-hmm. Some of the students were incarcerated, put in jail or what for burning their draft cards, but I think the government, the United States government, made it a federal offense if you burned your draft card.
On August 30th, 1965, President Lyndon Johnson signed a bill that made draft card burning illegal. If one was caught burning his draft card or mutilating it, the punishment was up to 5 years in prison or a $10,000 fine. People burning their draft card was a representation of protesting during the war. Activists would burn their draft cards during anti-war rallies or demonstrations.
People would just make fun of them and yell at them and scream at them and say baby killer and everything else. So how could they feel good about serving in the United States military when your own citizens and neighbors and everything else look down on you and hate you for your service, for serving in the military? So that's another reason why the country was so divided. And it was a difficult time in American history. And we had to go out in the drill field, which is the parade field, which is actually the football field, and we had to go march around, left, right, left, right, left, right. And then right across the street was a big dorm. Yeah. And all the other kids in the dorm were yelling, "Get out of Vietnam!" They're just giving us a hard time and laughing at us and yelling at us because all the cadets were in military and we were marching around the parade field.
Cadet training was very long and intense. Day training started as early as 5 a.m. rain or shine. Cadet field training focused on military training, physical training, and leadership skills. Training helped make a rapid transition to military life. It consisted of reflexive fire, weapon training, obstacle courses, and land navigation. Obstacle courses varied in difficulty. Cadets were challenged with daily physical fitness that helped them prepare for foot marches and tactical maneuvers. They were also strict on uniforms, which they could only wear certain colors, and the shoes had to be in good shape.
I was extremely happy that I did not have to go to Vietnam. If, in fact, I had received orders while in Germany to go to Vietnam and serve a tour, which is typically about a year, I would have gone because I did follow orders. And even though I was an officer, there's always the officers above you who are issuing orders where you follow them. And even though would not have wanted to go, I would have gone. And I would have done the best job I possibly could have.
React to that?
Again, you had your extremes, okay, and of people, pro-war, against war, and then that's why there are so many clashes that went on during the Vietnam War period. You've got Kent State, you've got the Washington D.C., you've got Watergate, you've got all kinds of incidences that were affected by the Vietnam War. People against people. Kent State was a real sad situation because these are students who were in school, college students who were protesting against Vietnam.
On May 1st, 1970, at Kent State University in Ohio, an anti-war protest was going on that involved students and non-students. The protesters were throwing rocks and bottles at the police officers, lighting bonfires, and breaking windows of stores and buildings. Another major part of the protest was the Reserve Officer Training Corps, the ROTC building, which was set on fire. While trying to put the fire out, protesters sabotaged the firemen by slicing their hoses. Around 100 National Guardsmen were called to campus. On May 4th, 1970, an incident occurred where 28 guardsmen opened fire on a crowd that wounded 9 and killed 4 students. This was an event that spread nationally, and about 500 colleges were shut down or disrupted by protesters.
It's sort of like your bright-eyed bushy-tail, okay? You're rah, 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 and you're all for whatever the U.S. government and military chooses to do. You're there to support them. But with time and with deaths, and you're seeing the tolls every day, more and more thousands of American soldiers being killed, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. Okay, the numbers are staggering. There are 50,000 deaths in Vietnam, and these are kids that never came home. So when you see those kinds of numbers, it's real hard to support it. Because there were Paris peace talks going on between the North Vietnamese and United States government, and these talks were going on in Paris.
The Paris Peace Accords is when the United States, South Vietnam, Viet Cong, and North Vietnam formally signed an agreement ending the war and restoring peace in Vietnam in Paris. Due to South Vietnam's unwillingness to recognize the Viet Cong's Provisional Revolutionary Government, all of it was confined to a two-party version of the document signed by North Vietnam and the United States. In addition, the United States agreed to withdrawal of all U.S. troops and advisors and the dismantling of U.S. bases within 60 days. In return, the North Vietnamese agreed to release all U.S. and other prisoners of war.
Finally, the negotiations were agreed upon, the war is over, and when the news hit, okay, anybody in the military was really, really happy. So that includes me, because that means that no more deaths. No more people having to go there and fight a war that they didn't believe in.